welcome back to movementprofessional.com. So today I want to discuss breaking down the walking cycle to work around foot pain. So if you're having foot pain with walking, usually you're going to get it in one of two places. It can be the big toe or it can be the plantar fascia area. So we'll discuss both, because usually when we look at improving walking, we're going to be addressing both of those issues. All right, so first thing we want to do is look at breaking walking down into three different phases. So from the side here, we have a stance phase, which is I'm going to be standing on my left leg, and basically my right leg would be coming through. So I'm just completely standing on one leg. So from this side, just appeared my head is over my shoulder, over my hip, and I'm stacked over this leg. So we'll call this stance phase. Second phase would then be I just drop my heel down as I'm about to move forward. So I'm making initial contact with my heel. This could be called heel strike. And then the third phase is I roll forward onto this right leg. And now I roll through my left big toe, and that would be called a rollover. So there's a lot of different ways to define gait, but those are, for me, the three simplest phases that we could look at, because we could also use them as snapshots and positions that we can assess and train while we slow everything down and walking, and we can then work around any discomfort we might be having in the foot. All right, so let's think about having the big toe pain. Usually what that'll come with is certainly during that rollover phase of gait. So what we want to make sure is that, one, we're assessing this rollover, and that when we're in this position, that there's very, very little weight on this back leg. Right, so it looks like the toe is taking a ton of stress here as we roll through it. So if we have a sore toe, that's going to be pretty painful. However, in the action of walking, we should be moving forward. So we should have shifted our weight from this heel strike position all the way onto this front leg here. So as we roll through the back toe, we're really not putting a lot of load through that. We're just getting this toe flexion, but the action is really weight bearing through the front leg. So that's one of the major mistakes, is people tend to push through this back leg, and that push off creates this sense of too much load through the toe, where we really should just be falling forward onto the front leg. And this rollover is sort of just an extension of the movement forward. So we do want to feel like we're more towards the big toe side, as opposed to having the ankle kick out and roll towards the pinky toe, but we're not putting a lot of weight through here because all the weight is falling forward. And that's the first thing I'll assess when I'm looking at gait, is the body staying stacked as we move through these three positions. So the stance position, a lot of times the compensation or the tailbone will be back. Knee locked out is a really common one, which then tends to kick the pelvis back and move the torso forward. So just teaching and exploring how well are you stacked head over shoulders over hips. Softening this knee a little bit can often help, and feeling how's your balance in this position. So as I drop into heel strike, nothing really changes here. I still have this stacked position. If I overstride, I'm going to drop hard into this heel, my head's going to come forward, I'm going to lose my stacked position. So the more I can keep a stacked position here, now what I'm feeling in the foot is that I have an equal pressure through the four corners of the foot, the two sides of the ball of the foot and the two sides of the heel. So I want to maintain that here. When I strike down with the heel, I want to tend to hit with the outer part of the heel first. So that outer corner of the heel touches down first. And then when I roll through, my weight has gone to this front leg, so I feel four corners of this front foot, but I've found the inside corner of the ball of the foot, but there's not a ton of weight here. All right, so if we do those things and we're able to really control the gait cycle, control the shifts between those three positions, a lot of times we're not going to be putting as much load down through the foot, which will help mitigate some of the stresses of weight bearing through the plantar fascia, and we're going to be offloading the big toe as we roll through it. So we'll be getting the range of motion and the motion that toe needs by making sure we do get to the inside of the foot as we roll through, but we're not going to have too much weight through it. We're not going to really be pushing off with every step, so then we're not taking as much load as we otherwise would. All right, so the exercises that you do are just simply use a mirror, maybe have a coach, somebody that can coach you into being in position. Are you stacked when you're in this stance phase? Are you stacked when you're in this heel strike? And then when you roll over through that foot, can you get to the big toe, but can you offload it by shifting your weight forward? And making sure that you can do that. You can use assistance by holding on to walking sticks and giving yourself some balance aids, because as you slow gait down, it does tend to become more of a balance challenge. All right, so that would be one of the starting things to see, and that can be difficult for a lot of people if you're not used to thinking about walking in that way, and you just kind of walk. You think it's a natural thing to do, but if there's pain, a lot of times we have to backtrack walking, break it down, and deconstruct it and see, can we make it more efficient? All right, so that that first principle is to make sure that we're stacked as we move through those three positions as much as possible. And what that's going to feel like when we speed it up is that the stride is quite a bit smaller. So if I take this position, I just drop my heel down, I should be able to bring this back. Well, if that's my initial step, it's not nearly as far as it would be if I was striding out in front of me. So as I start moving forward slowly, this is quite a smaller step than we're used to. So as we speed it up, the movement often feels like you're taking more steps. You're walking quicker and lighter, but not bounding out and not striding out. All right, so that would be, without thinking about what's going on with the upper body and adding rotation into it, that's how we would start with the lower body. Now, to take this further, we can also think about offloading one foot or putting a little bit more weight towards one side than the other. So if there is, say, big toe pain on the left, we may want to put a little bit more of our body to the outside of the foot to not take as much weight to the inside of the foot. So as I start to go into this heel strike position, what I can think of is really shoot for the outer part of the heel. And then if I can add an arm reach, an opposite arm and leg reach, my right arm is going to reach a little bit more than it otherwise would to turn me to the left. So now I'm biasing the left a little bit more. As I come forward, I might think a little bit more about staying on the inside of my right foot, and I won't reach quite as much when my right leg is coming forward and my left arm is coming forward, and that keeps me biased more towards the inside of this foot and the outside of that foot. So if I'm more towards the outside of my left foot, my body weight is just drifted a little bit more to the left than it otherwise would. So if that becomes more of the norm, and that could be a subtle cue of just think outer heel, left outer heel, right reach, left outer heel, right reach, that's going to have me go through the same general gait cycle, but I'll just be a little bit away from that big toe on the left, so it just teaches me to subtly offload that area that I'm getting pain on. And it would be vice versa if it was on the right. If I'm getting a plantar fascia type issue and the ankle is a bit stiff, so if my ankle is a little bit stiff into dorsiflexion, which would be bringing the shin forward over the toes, then the plantar fascia or the undersurface of the foot can get rigid and tight. So I might want to have a little bit more of a pronation in that side of the foot. So let's say my right plantar fascia is a little tight and painful. Again, I may want to actually bias more the inside of that foot, because towards the inside of the foot is more towards pronation. So I'd be getting a little bit more of a widening of the foot. So if you think about a rigid foot sort of makes the undersurface of the foot a little bit tighter, a little bit more firm. If my foot is wider, it's actually spreading and opening up that plantar fascia, giving it a little bit more movement, a little bit more circulation. So it would be the same thing if I have a right-sided rigidity in the plantar fascia. Every time I go through the right foot while I'm rolling over, I think about being a little bit more on the inside. And even when I heel strike, I'm not going to be totally to the inside, but I won't think as much towards the outside with that initial contact with the heel as I move forward. So I would bias outside of left, inside of right, and then again vice versa if it was problems on the other side. So hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot to look at with gait. So if you are having foot pain, first thing to do is have somebody who knows what they're doing assess your gait and try to break it down, and be patient with it, because it can take some time and be a little bit frustrating to have to sort of re-educate yourself into walking a little bit differently. But it's usually the place that you want to start, because if you're having pain in your feet, oftentimes it's walking, getting out of bed in the morning that you're feeling the biggest problem. But if you can just have an awareness of how to change the pressure that you're putting through your feet and putting through your gait, can make a huge difference. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, go to movementprofessional.com. I'll see you next time.